Through you, Mr. Chair, I can confirm that it's 4 p.m. and we are now live streaming and recording. You may begin your meeting.
I call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone, and declare quorum is present. The Secretary Treasurer, would you please begin this hearing with the land recognition statement?
We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging reminds us that our great standard of living is directly related to the resources and friendship of the Indigenous people. Through you, Mr. Chair, you may begin with your introduction.
Yes, thank you. So I'd like to introduce everyone that's here today. Myself, I'm John Kapp. I'm the chair today for the meeting. I also have Mr. Colin McCann on my left and Ms. Sue Sarko on my left as well. Sarah Leach is here as Secretary Treasurer. Assistant Secretary Treasurer Jody is with us, Jody Legros, and our planner Andrew Edwards, and the engineering manager Derek Young. So that's kind of the group they have here today. Just want to let you guys know that this is a hybrid hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Pelham. Everyone present and viewing at home via live stream will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be imposed should an application be approved. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. The purpose of the application and the relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application during the public portion of each application. We will hear from anyone wishing to submit verbal comments or submit a written comment via email to clerks@pelham.ca. Comments received following the public portion via email will not be considered. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Specific wording for conditions may be determined by the committee following the hearing. Copies of decisions will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and members of the public that have submitted comments. Notices of decisions can also be obtained by request to the Secretary Treasurer. Committee members are asked to raise your hand if you would like to speak and vote. Applicants, agents, and attendees are advised that they are free to leave the webinar hearing once a decision has been made on their application. Committee members, I am looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I move this agenda be approved.
Thank you. Call to vote. Raising hand for yes to be acceptable. Okay. Now, does any member of this panel have a pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act in any of the applications to be considered at this hearing?
I have no conflicts.
I have none.
Thank you. Secretary Treasurer, are there any requests, Jody, are there any other requests for withdrawal or adjournment?
There have been no requests for withdrawal or adjournment.
Okay. So, our first application this afternoon is file A135-2024P-A33-2024P. Could you please read the summary presentation?
Okay. We'll start with the Committee of Adjustment hearing. The Town of Pelham is holding hybrid Committee of Adjustment hearings. A hybrid hearing involves a mixture of in-person and remote attendance and participation. The following presentations are based upon the Town of Pelham's Planning Department report and analysis. Please note, no decisions have been made prior to this public meeting. All comments received from the commenting agencies and the public have been forwarded in full to the Committee of Adjustment members for their consideration and will appear summarized on the slides to follow. The Committee of Adjustment is a formal public hearing requiring decorum, meaning all comments are to be made through the chair. If you have pre-registered to speak virtually or are participating in person, you'll be giving an opportunity to address the committee at the public portion of the meeting. If someone ahead of you has made the same comments you wish to make, there is no need to repeat the same. Please keep all comments concise. If you are live streaming and wish to submit a comment live, please email clerks@pelham.ca. Comments must be received during the public portion of the meeting, otherwise they will not be considered. Inappropriate comments will not be tolerated. Please note that if decorum is lost, the meeting may be recessed and all persons will be asked to leave. We'll now proceed with our first presentation. Through you, Mr. Chair, for ease, 3 files will be presented in one presentation as the analysis portion is the same. That said, it is still 3 separate decisions that the committee can consider consecutively. We will share and proceed with the presentation. File number A31 to A33, 2024, for 13, 11, and 9 Accursi Crescent in the Emeralds Trail subdivision. The subject properties are located west of Hay Street, lying north of Welland Road in the development known as Emerald Trail. The subject property is located on a portion of the former Pelham Arena lands west of the town-owned park. The applications seek relief from the max lot coverage provision, such as for file A31-2024, max lot coverage of 51.38%, file A32, max lot coverage of 56.48%, and for file A33-2024, max lot coverage of 52.98%. To date, the following comments have been received. From the Building Division, see condition. From the Public Works Department, see conditions, and please be advised that no side yard walkways that impede sidewalk swales shall be permitted. Minor variance test 1, the variance is minor in nature. Yes, the increased coverage will not significantly alter the built environment or impact neighboring properties. The increased coverage will maintain a generous portion of the lots as open space, ensuring the property's character remains consistent with the surrounding area. Test 2, is the variance desirable for the development or use of land? Yes. The proposal will permit design flexibility while maintaining adequate amenity area. The proposal is compatible with surrounding land uses as dwellings of similar scale exist in the surrounding area. Test 3, does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Yes. The proposed increase will maintain the scale and character of the surrounding area. The lot will provide ample open space for landscaping and drainage. The increase in lot coverage is not anticipated to limit or detract from the provision of outdoor amenity area and open space. Test 4, does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Yes. The current designation allows development of residential uses and accessory structures. The variance will facilitate an appropriate development and does not conflict with any policies subject to fulfillment of the proposed conditions of approval, including a revised stormwater management report. Based on the analysis, staff is of the opinion the variance is minor in nature, conforms to the general policies and intent of both the official plan and zoning bylaw, and is appropriate for development and use of the land. Planning staff recommend that applications A31-2024, A32-2024, and A33-2024 be approved subject to the following conditions: that all necessary building permits be acquired prior to construction commencing to the satisfaction of the chief building official, that revised stormwater management report indicating revised calculations with respect to surface runoff due to increased impervious surfaces be provided to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. That a comprehensive lot grading and drainage plan be provided demonstrating overland flow routes, identifying swells and roof leader discharge locations, and showing neither parcel relies on the other for drainage to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, and that no side yard walkways that impede side yard swells shall be permitted.
Jody, has anyone pre-registered to speak via Zoom?
We do not have any pre-registered speakers. We do have the applicant, Mr. Anthony Candelero, who has joined us via Zoom. If he is there.
Okay. Anthony, would you like to add any comments at this point?
I'm sorry, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Candeloro. Go ahead, please.
Having some technical difficulties there. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the committee for hearing these three applications. As we submitted these previously in the last month as well, I had 9 other of these applications heard and approved. To give you a brief background of the development, we inherited these designs from the previous owner who intended to build these. We were unaware of the max lot coverage being passed on all of these, but we do intend to keep building these actual designs simply because we feel it fits in with the neighborhood. We feel that it'll be a beautiful streetscape and development when it's all said and done. Not only that, I think that it does adhere to the potential end user who could potentially be an empty nester or person of the age of retirement. These bungalows have an attached garage at the back, but provides ample yard space. But the main feature that we're going for is inside of these units, as we're allowed to build nice wide bungalows that could speak to the area, and not only that, like I said, be appreciated by the end user. I'm here to answer any questions that the committee has. But other than that, yeah, I would like to thank the Public Works Department and the department for their help. And I will add lastly that updated stormwater management report has been submitted to the Director of Public Works as of Friday of last week.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Cano. Now I'd like to open it up to the floor. If there's anybody else that would like to add or discuss or make any comments about what we're talking about at this point? No? Okay. Jody, have there been any emails submitted? Just want to make sure before we move on.
It is 4:14 p.m. and Clerk's Department has not received any emails relating to this.
Okay. Pretty straightforward so far. Well, I'd like to get a motion to close the public portion if we can, guys, and a mover and a seconder, and we'll go from there.
I move we close the public portion.
I second.
Oh, it's on. You're right.
I second.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's moved. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our committee. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they'd like to learn more about before we, render a decision at this point?
Just echoing your comments, Mr. Chair, that this appears fairly straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, at this point, with this process going through in the past already with other properties and staying kind of in line with that type of thinking, I think there's really no questions unless I know the town would have brought things forward if there were anything from their end. So I think we're ready to make a decision at this point. How about you? Go ahead. Yep.
I move
Yeah.
motion.
Yep. Are you going to read it out? Oh, yeah, sorry.
So applications are made for minor variance of A31-2024P, maximum lot coverage of 51.38%, A32-2024P, maximum lot coverage of 56.48%, A33-2024P, maximum lot coverage of 52.98%. This application has been granted for reasons. Number one, the variances are minor in nature as the increased coverage will not significantly alter the built environment or impact neighboring properties. The increased coverage will maintain a generous portion of the lot as open space, ensuring the property's character remains consistent with the surrounding area. Number two, intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. Number three, the intent of the official plan is maintained. Number four, the proposals are desirable for the land as they will permit design flexibility while maintaining adequate amenity area. Number five, this applications are granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. And number six, in making this motion, the Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act tests for minor variance. The conditions are as follows for this motion. The applicant obtain necessary building permits, submit a revised stormwater management report indicating revised calculations with respect to surface runoff due to increased impervious surfaces, submit a comprehensive lot grading and drainage plan to demonstrate overland flow routes, identifying swales and roof leader discharge locations, and showing neither parcel relies on the other for drainage. Please be advised that no side yard walkways that impede side yard swales shall be permitted.
And I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, we will render our decision to, for this application. Anyone in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
And I as well. So all three of us. Yes, so all three of us are okay with this. Yeah, this was very, very self-explanatory, so it's nice to deal with that. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right. I believe that's it at this point.
All right. Through you, Mr. Chair, that brings us to the next application for the
Right.
committee to consider.
Okay. Can you please give us our presentation for file B15 2024P?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Application is made for a partial discharge of mortgage and consent to convey 698.4 square meters of land being Part 1 for future construction of a single detached dwelling. Part 2 is to be retained for the future construction of a new single detached dwelling. To date, the following comments have been received. From the Building Division, the Building Department has no comments or conditions. For Public Works, the existing curb is to be cut to be restored in accordance with the town standards, that the applicant provide a cash in lieu should the applicant remove town-owned tree per town tree policy, and see conditions. To date, the following comments from the public have been received and are summarized as follows. 1, express concern with the higher elevation of the property and potential drainage issues for neighboring properties, concern about the removal of large mature trees on the lot affecting neighborhood character, request as many trees as possible be retained, concern about potential impact of construction on mature trees on the adjacent lot. 2, an individual phoned the planner on September 26, 2024, to express concern with neighborhood compatibility, overlook, and issues of height given the grade differential of the neighborhood. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed consent is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms with provincial, regional, and local plans. The resulting parcel complies with applicable zoning regulations, and upon satisfaction of the conditions of approval, is not anticipated to negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with respect to traffic, privacy, and stormwater management. Planning staff recommend that application number B15 2024 be approved, subject to the following conditions. Prepare and submit a site servicing plan, functional servicing report to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works or designate. Submit a comprehensive lot grading and drainage plan for all parcels demonstrating that the drainage neither relies nor negatively impacts neighboring properties, and that all drainage will be contained within the respective lots to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works or designate. Please be advised that no side yard walkways that impede side yard swells shall be permitted. Confirm that no existing utilities cross the proposed lot lines. Should any services cross these lot lines, the applicant is responsible for costs associated with the relocation or removal. Obtain a driveway access and culvert permit from the town for the construction of a new driveway or any modifications to existing driveways or entrances. Install and/or modification of new entrances shall be completed in accordance with town standards. Lots are to be individually serviced with its own sanitary and water connections and constructed in accordance with Town of Pelham engineering standards. Installation of any services will require a temporary works permit obtained through the Public Works Department. These works are to be completed prior to consent, and the applicant shall bear all costs associated with these works. Locate cards are to be provided to the town once works are complete. The applicant prepare and provide a tree preservation plan to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works and the Director of Community and Planning Development, and that the owner conform with Town Tree Maintenance Policy S802-01. That the owner provide the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism clearance letter and acknowledge no demolition, grading, or other soil disturbances shall take place on the subject land prior to the issuance of a ministry letter confirming that all archaeological resource, concerns have been mitigated and meet licensing and resource conservation requirements. Sign the Town of Pelham Standard Memorandum of Understanding explaining that development charges and cash in lieu of the dedication of land for park purposes are required prior to the issuance of a building permit. That the Secretary Treasurer be provided with a registerable legal description of the subject parcel together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for use in the issuance of the certificate of consent, and that final certification fee in the amount of $436 payable to the Treasurer, Town of Pelham, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer. All costs associated with fulfilling conditions of consent shall be borne by the applicant.
Thank you, Jody. At this point, is there anyone representing the group here? Oh, here we go. Great. Good afternoon. Please state your name. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair. My name is Ethan Lamont. I'm a planner with Upper Canada Consultants. I do have a short presentation.
Here we go.
Thanks. So this slide shows the aerial photo of the subject lands. As noted, the lands are municipally addressed as 6 Elizabeth Drive. They're located on the south side of Elizabeth Drive and are west of Pelham Street and north of Brock Street. They have about 44.5 meters of frontage, or about 146 feet, and are about 1,700 square meters, or about 0.42 acres in area. They previously contained a single detached dwelling, but are currently vacant, and they're surrounded by single detached dwellings to the south, east, and west, and there's a condominium townhouse development to the north. So the subject application proposes to divide the property generally in half, resulting in the creation of one new lot as demonstrated in the consent sketch on this slide. Both the new lot and the retained lot are intended to be developed with single detached dwellings. So under the town's official plan, the lands are designated as urban living area / built boundary. Single detached dwellings are permitted use in this designation, and the proposal conforms with all the applicable official plan policies pertaining to lot creation. Under the town's zoning bylaw, the subject lands are zoned as residential 1 or R1 zone. Single detached dwellings, again, are a permitted use in the R1 zone, and both the proposed and retained lots exceed the minimum frontage and area requirements for the zone. No zoning relief is requested for the future dwelling, so they will conform with applicable zoning provisions. Finally, I'd like to mention that I've had a chance to review the staff recommendation report, agree with the analysis, and accept the conditions of approval, which include matters pertaining to tree removals and stormwater management. With that, I'll end my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just looking, I noticed that the two buildings are kind of offset, right? And I think that's to make the front properties look somewhat attractive right, from the street, right, as opposed to...
Yeah, that's correct. I would point out too that the building envelopes shown on this sketch are just for demonstration purposes.
Got
It's
it.
not actually
Okay.
necessarily what they're going to look like. But yeah, that's the intent, is to provide a consistent streetscape with the setback.
And so as long as you guys are okay with all the recommendations that the town has made, I think like from my end, that's what's most important, because we did see the two concerns from the community talking about drainage, and there's always that question, right? The unknown. So I'm glad that that's dealt with right at the front end, and that it's in there, that that is done. Okay. Does anybody else want to make any comments from the group? Anyone? Please.
We do
Yes.
have one pre-registered speaker
Sorry?
on this.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, sorry. We do have one pre-registered speaker on this
Okay.
matter, Ms. Paula Burketto.
Maybe we can do that now? Sure. Is she online, or is she with us here in the...
I believe she was attending in person.
I'm sorry, what was the last name?
Burketto?
Mrs. Burkett? Ah, okay. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the Committee of Adjustment, town staff, and guests. It's a very emotional thing for me to present here today, although I've been instructed that emotions are not proper at this sort of gathering, so I wrote things down in my notes.
Okay.
My name is Paula Burketto, and I am representing two property owners at 14 and 17 Allen Crescent, as well as my own thoughts. I grew up at 14 Allen Crescent, where my parents built and lived until their deaths in 2013 and 2018, Frank and Emma Seaman. My son and his wife, Francis and Marta, have lived there since 2018. My aunt and uncle, Alice and Steve Dyka, built and lived at 17 Allen Crescent from 1958 to 2019. Their son, Stephen, now owns their home. These homes and several others are owned by children of the original owners. The parents of these people were some of the first residents on the street. While the relevant sections of the municipal, regional, and provincial plans have been read and are understood, the homeowners are concerned about the effect this consent will have on the neighborhood they care about and enjoy living in. Generous lot sizes, unique homes, large yards, and treed lots are what attracted the homeowners initially. Through the decades, there has been little change, save for the division of the original Brown property lot in the late 1970s and 80s, resulting in 3 additional lots. Almost 2 decades later, that house was further divided to create yet again 1 additional lot. All of these lots bear similar setbacks, building mass, building heights, and lot coverage as the rest of the homes on the street. There is a defined character to the neighborhood. The architectural style is typical of the mid-century and sometimes modern designs. The garages are flush with the front elevation of the house, or even tucked under or to the side of the house. The front door is dominant, often with a porch. Many houses have large windows facing the street, and the roof lines are low in pitch. These large windows afforded the homes lovely views both to the front and backyards, where ample green space provides opportunities for play, relaxation, and entertainment. The overall proportion of the house is horizontal rather than vertical, with homes being single or side or back split. It is a desirable and sought-after neighborhood to live in. The people I represent do not support the proposal to sever, and this is for the following reasons, primarily based on specifics in the official plan, places to grow, and the provincial policy statement, also the Planning Act. Now, how, I'm sure you know, but for the sake of our guests, how is a severance application evaluated? In considering a consent application, the consent granting authority's decision shall be consistent with the provincial policy statement and conform or not conflict with any applicable provincial plan. This means that a council must ensure the provincial policies and plans are applied as an essential part of the land use planning decision-making process. Consideration is given to the effects of the division of land on the site, on the neighbors, and on the community as a whole. And that's from the ontario.ca website. Now, why is an approval needed from the town? And this is from the Town of Pelham website. Division of land in the Town of Pelham and throughout Ontario is highly regulated by restrictive local, regional, and provincial planning policies. The Committee of Adjustment must consider several legislative provisions, and all planning matters must be consistent with provincial policy statements and shall conform to provincial plans. It's interesting to note that on this property, a lovely home existed. It wasn't a vacant property a short time ago, as stated in the presentation by the engineer. The house was beautiful. It was in good shape. There was really no reason to take it down. But now that it's down, it does seem more appealing to have some development on the vacant property. This sets a precedent for similar actions in the future. The demolition of this home was not necessary. It created unnecessary landfill and destroyed a home that was once the gateway to this subdivision. The notice of consent shows a sketch indicating the consent. However, it's just a sketch. How are neighbors expected to really comment on things when we were just told that the sketch may change? There's no elevations. We don't know what the house will look like or its effect on the neighboring properties. We do know that variances would be needed to achieve the outline on the plan. Allowing these variances would result in a small property overwhelmed by a building. So it's not just one new property or house that's been added. It's 2 new houses on the lot where one house existed with a large property. Essentially, the homes are somewhat shoehorned in and out of character to all of those that are adjacent. The building envelope will dominate the lot and be out of character with the others in the area. The average lot coverage existing is approximately 25%. That was of the original Heron home, which were the one-time owners of the house that was demolished. Some lots in the area are actually 15 to 20% coverage. The building footprint of the existing is averaged at 200 square meters. The proposed development has a building footprint of around the same, 217 meters squared, but covers 45 to 55% of the property. The lot size itself will be 25% narrower than the smallest property found on both streets, and visually will appear as a home that is out of character and scale. The average proposed lot has a front yard width of 15 meters. And although frontage is larger, it seems larger as it's been measured on the angle of the street, not perpendicular or parallel to the house. The next smallest existing lot size is 25 meters. 10 meters, that's 30 feet. The new property would have a front yard depth of 9 meters. Backyards range from 37 meters to 10 meters in depth, with an average of 21 meters of existing properties on the two streets. The new properties have backyard depths of 7.6 meters and 23.5 meters. The above required changes to the bylaws in comparison to the surrounding context would collectively be major and significantly different, and therefore in contravention of I can't remember which points, 1, 2, 3, or 4 of the variance applications. This development would be more appropriate to newer subdivisions, such as those in the Fonthill West development area, rather than an existing 60-year-old subdivision with large lots and generous setbacks. And I do wish to ask, I know that at one point there was a goal to increase the density in the town of Pelham, and that's further to the places to grow and smart growth initiatives. And I asked at the time where they were at in that goal for 3%. And they couldn't tell me, but I can tell you that adding one new property will not significantly contribute to that sort of desired increase. I think it's something like 0.2% or something even less than that. As stated in the official plan, any new infill must be compatible with the surrounding context, and the development won't be. When the mass of the two homes on a lot previously held by one home is compared, these new properties will create a solid building mass near the existing homes of 4 Elizabeth Drive and 2 Allen Crescent. It is likely, although not shown, that these new homes would have heights equal to a 2-story home to create a saleable home. This is out of character with the existing homes on Allen or Elizabeth. There is a reasonably uniform building period and style and design. This new building would be significantly out of context, both in period, style, design, scale, and character, and would break the continuity of the street. There is a degree of spaciousness, sunlight, and privacy afforded by the zoning bylaws existing when the neighborhood was developed. The two new homes significantly reduce side and rear yard setbacks or spaces, and the physical layout of the homes would be substantially different. In addition, the development must not infringe on the properties adjacent. This includes damage to foundations due to the close proximity of excavation and site preparation work, and damage to trees and retaining walls that are either above or below property lines. There are mature trees on adjacent properties that will be within the path of construction and will likely suffer health compromising damage. These trees afford the neighbors significant landscape screening and buffering. New trees or pyramidal coniferous shrubs will take 15 to 20 years, 10 to 15 years, to only partially screen a 12 to 15 meter high building. Most significantly is the concern of the two mature, over 50-year-old trees that contribute to the mature streetscape. And this is one of the lovely things about moving into a street with mature trees. I now speak based on my 35 years of professional experience as a landscape architect in the Niagara region. Much of that time was spent in private practice and some in public practice. I have lots of experience with trees, tree preservation, tree replacement, tree damage as a result of construction, and tree replacement. It doesn't matter that the city is asking for an amount to cover the loss of the two trees. That covers the cost to plant. Actually, I think it was $450. It doesn't even cover the cost to plant a new 2.5-inch caliper tree, which basically looks like an upside-down mop. Those trees are huge in terms of their leaf mass and their ability to carbon capture, provide shade, shield the ground from erosion from these unprecedented storm events that we have. To get a new tree to grow to that size will take, 60 years. And in the meantime, you're not left with anything that is comparable or will contribute to the green infrastructure of the town. Although the provincial policy statement encourages ranges of density, texture, and appearance, the development would not enhance but detract from the existing neighborhood. So in summary, we understand the goal of the town to increase density. This has been done successfully throughout the town in large numbers. New subdivisions, new types of development, and new developments on old, demolished sites with a previous use have all been successful. This consent will do very little to add to that. The development is incompatible with the established built form and character present and erodes the aesthetics of the streetscape and neighborhood. If the proposal had setbacks similar to the existing neighborhood and a home more similar to the proportion of home to lots of existing size, it would be more desirable. In having to, or not being allowed to install a sidewalk anywhere there are drainage swales, if there are drainage swales on two sides of the property, which is quite typical, no sidewalks would be present for the owner to walk on anything other than a ditch from the driveway to the backyard. You couldn't plant trees there, and that would be very problematic, I think, for many homeowners. It's very difficult to push a lawnmower through a swale, so I don't know. Do they take it through the back door that hopefully exists in their garage? I'm not sure. The redevelopment is not respectful of the existing setbacks, lot patterns, or sizes. The proposed lot is at least 40% smaller than all others on the streets. It disrupts a subdivision by squeezing an oversized lot coverage on a reduced lot with reduced setbacks. The dimensions of the new lot are not consistent with the surrounding. The request for consent does not fulfill the intent of the consent policies of the town of Pelham. The town has many opportunities for intensification in more appropriate areas, and this is not one of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Picardo. Thank you. Thank you for being prepared and presenting something that you've obviously done a lot of work on that. And thank you for sharing that with the committee today so that we have a bit more color to what's happening here. Thank you. Okay. At this point, is there anyone else from the public that would like to come up and add any more comments? No?
I think she covered pretty much everything of all our concerns.
Okay.
Very well done.
Yep.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's,
It won't go through the video.
Oh, it won't.
It's
Yeah, it's more about just having it recorded and,
right. You mentioned Vince Andronico for Elizabeth Drive.
thank
You
you.
mentioned something about your planning staff opinions regarding traffic. Has any of the planning staff been on the street? Can't answer that.
We do not work for the town, so I'm not
Right.
sure if you're talking about the town or us.
Well,
but-
I'm just asking.
I mean, I've been on that street before.
Okay, because there is an issue with traffic now, and adding two houses now at the corner where there's a yield sign would only add to the issues we have now. I pull out the back. I pull out my driveway, and there's a car on my ass, just like that. Sorry. So there is an issue with that. So I'm just wondering if you can make a comment to the planning staff whether they've looked at that issue with regards to traffic, because it was of their opinion that traffic won't be a problem. So.
Yeah, I mean, just on that point, I mean, if it's okay for me to just speak freely here a little bit, if there was a major development going in with a number of cars, you would see a difference. But normal traffic increase?
It's already a problem
No,
now.
no, but what I'm saying is that exists already. We can't go backwards. We can't ask people to have less cars on their houses, right?
Right.
Like we can't ask you to say, sir, go from 3 cars to 2 cars.
No, I know.
Okay, so-
But there will be two.
Right, there'll be another house for sure. So
Right.
there'll only be really one more other home that you'd be adding with possibly 2 or 3 cars, right?
But I'm saying their driveway is going to be right on the corner, right
well, it's
on
on
the
their-
yield sign.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I saw the way it's set up because it's kind of a rounded front end there. But the town owns most of that land, you know, up to, I believe, the tree that's still standing there. And there's the driveway of the occupant would only be from their property line back, right? So they would have to make sure that they had enough room for a car or two or whatever. But I do understand the traffic situation comes up a lot in our meetings, not just for this. You know, you could imagine wherever there's a development, and the town has done extensive surveys and work with different companies to understand how to manage the traffic, how to, you know, is it feasible? You know, does the traffic make sense when we're doing this development? So they definitely, from what I understand, I could be wrong here, guys, but that's included in their assessment when they're going through this. But by adding one more property here, I'm not sure if that, you know, will make or break, let's say, that traffic situation they have. And I do agree, you know, when I came here 25 years ago to Fawn Hill and just going up and down South Pelham, I mean, it's just way more cars. I mean, it's just a lot more cars in town. Thank you. Anything else or good? Okay. All right. Let me see here. Anyone online send anything? Jody, I just want to double check since we've been speaking here for a bit.
Okay, checking the clerks at Pelham email. It is 4:48 PM, and I do not see any other emails that have come through.
Okay, then. Can I get a motion to close the public portion of this?
I move we close the public portion.
And I'll second that. Okay. All right. Okay, so now I'd like to turn it over to our group again. Questions, comments? People are here. Let's see what we have. Please, go ahead, Colin.
I'll start off through you, Mr. Chair. First off, thank you to Ms. Barchetto for an excellent presentation. My main comment in it is I will ask you to hold. Don't throw away anything that you've said. So much of what you've said is like this motion right now is to hear the severance of the lot. The developer has suggested buildings to go on to those lots. And a lot of what you have said to us is anticipating what the buildings are going to be. And I agree with you. The proposal suggests that there will be variances required, but we can't anticipate those variances at this time. So again, just to caution that we're here only to deal with issues regarding the severing of the lots. So I'm going to restrict the rest of my comments just to that. So again, through you, Chair, I have a couple of questions for Public Works. One, I agree wholeheartedly with, and I'm an avid tree preservation person. Your report suggested that they would need a cash in lieu deposit. And then the motion that we're asked to consider only says that they prepare and provide a tree preservation plan and to conform with town tree maintenance policy. Does that envisage a cash deposit as you have suggested in the report?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it does. The town takes the cash in lieu. We like to, if we take one tree down, we like to plant two. So that's the town policy. So if they have a tree removal, they either give us cash in lieu to plant two more trees, or they replace the trees in front of the property at a different location.
Mm-hmm. But as far as the onus being placed on the developer to maintain those beautiful trees that are on the lot, what steps can the town, what steps will the town take?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The tree preservation plan means they put an exclusion zone around the tree, which normally is the canopy. That is the extent of the preservation area, because the roots of the tree normally go as far as the canopy. So we try to, when they go in for construction, try to keep them away from the trees. So it's normally fenced off area with orange fencing to preserve the trees.
Okay, all right. And in response to another point raised, we haven't seen, I haven't been able to envisage the location of the driveway as it applies to the existing yield sign. Is that something that will have to be considered when the town looks at the plan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the driveways are not fixed, a little bit like the houses. Until we get defined driveway locations, then we can review them at the time.
Okay.
Generally, I mean, there was an existing driveway to the north of the intersection. They're now installing one on the south side of the which actually comes off Elizabeth. So, in essence, you know, there is a sight line that the town owns that they are not allowed to park in. We can't tell people where to park, but, you know, we do have a bylaw that states they can't park within the sight line of the intersection.
All right, and one more thing, through you, Mr. Chair, just something that I haven't seen before. Maybe you can explain to me the site servicing plan / functional servicing report. What if you're able to do it
Through you, Mr. Chair, the reason we're asking for this one is, as was pointed out, this was a large single home. The water service is on the north side of the property. The sanitary service is on the south side of the property. And with the severance, what's going to happen is the lot 1 on the north side is only going to have water. The newly created lot on the south side will only have a sanitary. So the north one will require a new sanitary service and the south one will require a new water service, hence why we need a servicing plan to indicate where those are going to be, because we also have to ensure that they're not going to impact the trees when they install them.
Okay. And I lied. Mr. Chair, I do have one more point.
You have one more.
One more, and I'm not sure if this goes to planning or works. The property to the west side of the lot has a beautiful retaining wall. And am I jumping the gun by asking what, the retaining wall appears to belong to the property to the north side. Am I jumping the gun and asking what the town's plans are to ensure that is maintainable, for lack of a better word?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the retaining feature it will remain unless they wish to grade it out onto their property, in which case they would probably not be able to develop lot 1. Because they'd have to put a 1 and 3 slope in there, which would extend significantly into their developable area. So I'm going to assume that the wall will remain, more so because it's holding up the property, the existing property that stayed. And they would have to enter in negotiations with that property owner to do anything with it.
Okay, all right. And with that, Mr. Chair, I give it back to you.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions here too, but you covered a lot of it, so that's good. No, that's great. I guess the only other thing I had, well, maybe I'll put it over to Ms. Sarko. Do you have any questions at all, or any comments, or anything you'd like to add? No, you're good. Okay. Yeah, my point is just to your presentation again, Mr. Mercado. What was there before, kind of the history and all that. It's awesome. I mean, it is what it is. But, the fact that the owner has torn down the building, demolished, that really doesn't, it's not part of this, right? This is kind of how we move forward. Like, what do we do moving forward? And I just want everybody to know out there also that just because there's a proposed two-home, on this property, let's say if we sever it, who knows what's going to end up at? It might come back that they go back to one. I mean, it's not a given, but it is a very big, possibility, no question, especially with housing costs today and all the, the challenges we have around housing and keeping people from Fawn Hill in Fawn Hill. That's really what the goal is, but it's getting very difficult. And so, it's trying to make the right decisions for everyone included, and it's very tough. But I just wanted to bring up the whole existing home and kind of the demolition not really being part of this, because there could have been some really large structural concerns with the building. Who knows? I'm just making it up. I don't know, but they have every right as an owner to do what they have done, right? Just like we have the same right to do the same thing with ours if we decided, right? Okay, I only have the question about the trees again. I just want to, so there is going to be a plan coming forward from the developers, should they go down this road, for the tree preservation. So that was a big one for me. I think with the, how we can save trees that are going to be inside the lot perimeter, that's going to be a challenge. It's always been a challenge, but I think that's a decision that has to be made by someone. And I don't think that's for us today, but it is a decision that has to happen. All right, that's all I really wanted to say, guys. How about where are we here? Let's see. Are you guys ready to render a decision?
I'll make the
Okay.
make the motion, Mr. Chair, regarding file B15-2024P 6 Elizabeth Drive, Pelham, an application for consent for partial discharge of mortgage and to convey Part 1. I move this application be granted, subject to the following conditions. To the satisfaction of Public Works. 1, prepare and submit a site servicing plan / functional servicing report. 2, submit a comprehensive lot grading and drainage plan for all parcels, demonstrating that the drainage neither relies nor negatively impacts neighboring properties, and that all drainage will be contained within the respective lots. No side yard walkways that impede side yard swales shall be permitted. 3, confirm that no existing utilities cross the proposed lot lines. Should any services cross these lot lines, the applicant shall be responsible for costs associated with their relocation and/or removal. 4, obtain a driveway access and culvert permit from the town for the construction of a new driveway or any modifications to existing driveways / entrance. 5, lots are to be individually serviced with its own sanitary and water connections and constructed in accordance with Town of Pelham engineering standards. Installation of any services will require temporary works permits obtained through the Public Works Department. These works are to be completed prior to consent, and the applicant shall bear all costs associated with these works. Locate cards are to be provided to the town once works are complete. And 6, the applicant prepare and provide a tree preservation plan and conform with town tree maintenance policy S802-01. In addition to the satisfaction of planning, 1, provide the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism clearance letter and acknowledge that no demolition, grading, or other soil disturbances shall take place on the subject land prior to the issuance of a ministry letter confirming that all archaeological resource concerns have been mitigated and meet licensing and resource conservation requirements. And 2, sign the town's MOU explaining that the development charges and cash in lieu of the dedication of land for park purposes are required prior to the issuance of a building permit. To the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer, provide a registrable legal description and deposited reference plan. 2, provide final certification fee of $436. This motion is based on the following reasons. 1, the application conforms to and complies with the town official plan, regional policy plan, and provincial policy statement and town's zoning bylaw. 2, this motion is rendered having regard to sections 51 sub 24 and 51 sub 25 of the Planning Act. 3, this committee has considered all written and oral submissions and finds that subject to the conditions, this application meets the Planning Act criteria, is consistent, and complies with provincial, regional, and town planning policy. And 4, the applicant is aware they must comply with the town tree maintenance policy S802-01.
Would you like to second it?
I second the motion.
Okay. Jody?
Okay, and can I get a formal vote? All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we can move on to committee minutes.
Okay.
We're looking for approval of the minutes on the agenda.
I approve the minutes of the August 6th meeting be approved.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, that brings us to adjournment.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, everyone.
Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, for adjournment?
You move.
I move the motion.
And I second.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.